Fayeon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Lola Niduteni.
Okay, well, this program is segmented into two. For those who are tuning into this for the very first time, let me do a bit of introduction so you are conversant with how the conversation will progress this morning. Issue of the day is where we're at now. This will run from about 5 minutes to 9 o'clock, and from 9 a.m. would have the second segment of Panorama called From the Pages. And the Lola wants to do the honors of helping us with the issue of the day. It's about 1 year after 2010-2020. Have the events of EndSARS changed anything? Basically, is what we'll be looking at this morning.
We have Barrister KAYODE ADEREMI who'll be joining us. He's not just a lawyer, he's also an activist, and I know he was heavily involved in the protests that happened here in Abeokuta. So he'll be offering his perspective from that angle as well as from the legal angle, as well as we examine all that has happened since that fateful day, 2010-2020, in October last year. All right, let's begin then.
Okay, exactly a year ago on the 20th of October 2020 came the incident that became dubbed the Lekki Massacre, or for those who find that to be an exaggeration of what took place, the Lekki shootings.
1 year later, one thing is clear to all and sundry. The Nigerian military did indeed shoot at unarmed protesters that fateful night at the Lekki toll gate, as witnessed by many on a number of Instagram live feeds, including DJ switches.
Forensic evidence submitted to the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry on EndSARS has shown this to be true, coupled with a latest admission by the army itself after several denials and independent investigations done by several news outlets such as Premium Times, the Foundation for Investigative Journalism, Human Angle, BBC and CNN, among others, have shown this to be true.
What remains to be seen is the number of casualties tied to that night's shooting by the army. The event of 2010-2020, however, was merely the unfortunate culmination of a weeks-long EndSARS protest, and before that, a movement that had been years in the making to protest human rights violations in profiling, harassing, extorting, brutalizing, torturing, detaining, and extrajudicial killings by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, a special police unit established in 1992.
While it was years in the making, this decentralized social media originated movement grew exponentially in October last year, attracting international attention from global celebrities and powerful figures, as well as solidarity from Nigerians in the diaspora.
At the heart of it was an urgent call for reformation of the entire policing system in a list of demands tagged 545. Subsequently, several states set up judicial panels to investigate these allegations of atrocities by SARS. On 19th October, Governor Dapo Abiodun inaugurated the state judicial panel of inquiry to address complaints against the Special Anti-Robbery Squad.
In July, first proceedings were concluded and the recommendations submitted to the Ogun State Governor. Today, on the one-year memorial of the symbolic 2010-2020 that defined last year's EndSARS movement, let us examine if the events of EndSARS changed anything. Again, we have Barrister ADEREMI here with us in the studio to have this conversation. Barrister ADEREMI, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Benga. Thank you, Lola.
Okay, let's begin with the account of the Nigerian army that we also referenced during the prologue that has shifted over time before the panel of inquiry set up to probe the allegations and accusation of police brutality. As a matter of fact, various states set up these panels, but the rep of the army in Lagos, that's the epicenter of the EndSARS protest, Brigadier Ahmed Taiwo, who we understand has now been promoted to the rank of a major general, admitted that the soldiers at the scene had live rounds, but continued denied that anyone was shot. He also did mention that they fired blanks and shots into the air. Now, let's talk about the panels first. Would you say these panels were really independent to do their jobs? A lot of the panels, like we also referenced, have done with their recommendations and their...
Well, I'll be using Ogun State panel as a point of reference, okay, because out of the 58 petitions treated in Ogun State, my office, without an attempt at being immodest, treated 4 or 5 of them.
Okay.
That's about 6% of the total petitions treated. So, citing Ogun State as example, I'll say that, largely speaking, they were independent. We did not really have cases of straightforward case, really. But I just did that to see, what was going to be.
And recommend compensation to make recommendations to the Ogun State government.
I think we need to divorce having, even those that died, not a single dime had been paid to anyone.
So there were compensations? None?
No, not a single. Long, and length and breadth of Ogun State. Political, beside his wife in their bedroom. No one, you cannot run government with opacity and expect people to jeer you. Something will be wrong somewhere. And the problem is this: people will start making conjectures and speculations. They can. It's either of the two. You either tell them, no, for example, and this is not it's not a hypothetical case, Benga and Lola. My clients have been calling me, lawyer ADEREMI. You represented us at the panel. They have given recommendations. What was said about us? Imagine me saying, I don't know. I don't have an idea. Imagine. And we have been making calls. We have written, I will give you a copy of the letter, really, And that's where, that's where things go wrong. And this morning, we've gone to court already. This is the way we are marking our own anniversary. Okay. This is an advanced copy of what we filed in court on the 20th, exactly 1 year afterwards. So, since nothing has been done to anyone as far as we're concerned, that is where one begins to feel something may be wrong somewhere. If the governor has nothing to hide, why shroud it? As a matter of fact, Benga, I don't cower like that. I got up the last day I finished my case at the panel. The chairman of the panel asked me if I had anything to urge, and before I stepped out, and I got up and told the panel that now that recommendation in Lagos, for example, we know that a particular lady was awarded, I think, about 200 million or so, one person. We don't have such in Ogun State. And I asked the panel, and my Lord Justice Solomon Olubemi, retired, told me that, well, once the recommendation is ready, the panel will forward it to the governor. And that's exactly what happened. And I showed discontent. Like, that shouldn't be. Well, if anyone thinks that is right, let them come forward and tell us. Mind you, the state to set up this panel because to end it on your terms. And the longer it takes, the worse it gets. So like I said, well, I'm not just talking. We've been to court this morning to file a case against the state governor and the AG of the state and then the state government to make this public. Okay.
I'm interested in the report that the CNN released some days ago. And the CNN said it had made renewed attempts to obtain comments from the Nigerian armed forces, the police, the federal government, and not one has responded. Do you see this as complicity on the part of these bodies and these organizations mentioned, the federal government, the Nigerian armed forces, and the police?
Well, that goes without saying, Lola. If you ask me, did I say Lola? Binga, sorry. It goes without saying. Take for instance, if you are in court, and there is something we call court examination.
Right.
That is, if someone has stated his or her case, the other lawyer would have the opportunity to begin to, ask questions to attack the person and bring a fire on. And I said, hello, Mr. Witness. Whatever the judge will put down will favor you. There's no way. Because if for nothing, it shows that there is some night that they were not,
they were no shootings. That they were imposters dressed in military camouflage.
And at the back, like a scripted movie, and it's so on camera that nobody has seen it. He's older than me, but I'm not a kid, man. All right. So asking them these questions, and Lagos State government, the military has lied. The only constant people have seen here, yes, like you asked me, there seems to be strong complicity on part of the military and of course the state government.
Now, according to this Vanguard report, after the Ogun State panel finished sitting and submitted its report, it recommended over 218 million naira compensation to victims, to 42 victims or families. Meanwhile, Lagos State panel, to which has finished sitting, in total has also recommended 410.2 million naira to 70 of its petitioners, and in this totality here. But I haven't seen any of these states that set up panels. We had Oyo, Abia, Anambra, Osun, Ekiti, Delta, Niger, Taraba, Kaduna, Enugu, Imo, Plateau, Edo, Nasarawa, Ondo, Akwa Ibom, and other states set up panels of inquiry as well. I haven't seen any of them also make public their recommendations. Are you aware of any other state aside from Ogun?
No, I'm following up with Ogun and Lagos, really. Of course, Ogun is my base.
And Lagos is like the most perhaps monitored, because of Lagos itself was very significant.
It was the center of it.
Yes, it was the epicenter of the protest. So it feels like a lot of these states are following the cue of Lagos. In Lagos, do you think that there has been enough progress made that other states can emulate?
Now, we know that Ogun State panel earmarked certain amount, but you did not read that so amount was maybe 5 million was awarded to Benga Fire, and then let's say 4 million to Lola. In court, for example, like one of my clients, Sheyaki, stopped a car in the dead of the night at about 1 a.m. And forced the driver to take those guys. When they entered into that compound, of course I had pictures of the compound. They said some guys killed the fence. I noticed that someone was sobbing behind me, and I looked back. That was Shei's mom. Hearing kept telling them, and at the point he was into forex trading, and I was saying, "Excuse me, sir, my phone. I'm on forex trading. Let me close the deal." That landed him a slap. Larry was, just close this deal, right? Take back my phone. Every time he did that, they kept on slapping him until they locked him up. Before they were released the following day, they had closed the citation in school. So he had, and before they gave him back his phone the following day, he had 10:30 p.m. thereabouts, I spoke with the guy actually. The guy told me that, and I asked him uniform. So he saw guys close to the bush, no lights, no police uniform, no branded police car, and he saw guns. So he thought they were armed robbers. So that was why he ran. I spoke to him personally. And those guys went after him. And when they caught this guy, they told him, lead us to your house. There will be a reason you are running from us. This is how everything started. So far, maybe your son or something was killed by officers, really. So, totality of everything is, we keep on having people forming opinions. Like I gave example about Benga and Lola. If, for example, someone goes and tampers with this recommendation, for example, how can one tell, really? That's how things happen. And then the next thing is, you send police to go and start bullying them and the like. But when people start calling, asking for negotiations, begging, doing letters, they don't respond. So when people want to...
The panel, the Ogun finished its sittings and then recommended certain things to the governor. And the governor is yet to make anything known, give his final word on the recommendations. What do you think would explain this delay? And could it be indefinite? Can the governor indefinitely postpone making public the recommendations and perhaps even doling out compensation?
This question captures my fear all along. The governor has received the recommendation for about 3 months or thereabouts ago, and he has kept mum about it. That's where my worry is. The longer it takes, the worse it gets. People keep on saying, for example, someone told me that I should watch out, that by 2022, the governor will start paying those victims. I said, how do you mean? Now, how did you know? The guy said, I suspect he wants to use it for campaign. And he will have media houses around. Answer without speculating. Because I am not Dakwa Abiodun.
Is there anything that could legally compel him to immediately and expeditiously,
I told you I've gone to court this morning.
Yeah.
I filed a case against him. So that's one. There's a law we call Freedom of Information Act 2011. It was enacted, I think, during Jonathan's regime.
That's right.
And that happened because of things like this. The law is that from sections 1 to 7 through to 14, in fact, that where the government or any of its agency is in custody of any document or any information whatsoever, that any member of the public that has interest or even does not have interest can demand or request for that information and say must be obliged to the person. That's what the law says. But even without the law saying that, sit on your property with that, all the documents that Senator Moson had then when he was governor, he didn't leave them there. That typifies what a real public office is. See, the whole system of Nigeria government is just so faulty. It's just so wrong. Those guys think they are kind of some sort of demigods or something. Yeah, why would you be asking somebody, saying and keep asking? I have a video here, I can play it for you, Benga, where in America, a police officer, fully kitted, was about buying something, some grocery or whatever like that, over a counter. And there's this COVID sign in front of the desk, but saying that put on your mask before you could buy grocery. Right. So there was another man, a civilian behind them, that was video recording him, and he said, "Officer, sorry, you can't buy that thing because we're not putting on nose mask." And he kept repeating that. Do you know what happened? The officer, he had the phone to his face, and the officer said, I'm sorry. And this guy didn't stop there, the civilian. He said, people like you are those. He said, people like you are bad. You're not a good leader. People like you are not doing things that one could emulate. I just paused for a moment, and the guy actually took nose mask, wore it, and apologized profusely before leaving that scene. Trying for Nigeria. I have a guy in Ijegun area in Lagos that saw how police officers, according to him, were malhandling a tricycle, keke napep, so to speak, rider. This guy picked his phone and was recording the thing. You know what these police officers did? They left the keke napep guy and they came to this guy. In fact, when he called me, what he was saying in Yoruba, lawyer, what is for me? This guy landed in the cell. He was there for about 3 hours. I had to drive down to Lagos. I mean, he was detained around Ijegun, police station for about 2 to 3 days. And I kept asking, what was his offense? They said, they record us. And I asked, if the governor wants to go and do maybe something in the public, do his pressmen not follow him? That tells us one thing. When you are doing something right, for example, I think we are live on Facebook. That's right. Why would I blame Nola for recording me? But if I want to, for example, maybe pinch Nola, or God forbid, rape someone, God forbid, would I mind being recorded? Yes, I would mind, because something is wrong somewhere. So, but if that officer, for example, was cleaning the streets, as trying to show patriotism, would he mind being recorded? No. So that shows that there's a presumption of something wrong somewhere, really. But in Nigeria, I feel so clearly it is bad for the governor to have done this, to have kept mum about this, receiving what's they doing with the recommendation for the past 3 months, for God's sake. Why is he gathering dust when people are languishing with it? I mean, it's wrong on all fours.
Okay, I'd love for us to look at a matter of concern according to the Human Rights Watch. They released a short report a few days ago. It was titled Nigeria, a year on, no justice for EndSARS crackdown. And they say accountability remain inconclusive, which I am not concerned about really, but they say it's also bleak, which is my own source of worry. Do you share the sentiments of Human Rights Watch, and why?
What did they say is bleak, please?
The report released mentioned how accountability is inconclusive according to the panels, and also they also say maybe recommendations and all of those from those panels. Everything just looks bleak of sorts.
Which of the panels really? Is it the totality
General
of it? Well, the one for Ogun State, I think I will agree, citing Ogun State as an example for, as a point of reference again. Why so? For the opt-in time, we were at the panel, we tabled our case and all that, we called witnesses, and as we speak, we don't know the fate of our clients, petitioners. So if you don't call that bleak, it's not just only bleak, it's opaque as well. It's opaque, it's wrong, really. So I think I'll agree with that. Citing Ogun State as example, I'll agree.
Accountability as well. There have been questions about how the government should come out and admit or maybe even refute and say we were not part of all of the actions and didn't order soldiers to go to Lekki and all of those things. At least say something. Accountability, really.
No, well, I told you that the Nigerian governance system is so faulty, and it appears to me that it's done deliberately so. We were colonized by England, by the Britons, and but when we were going to copy governance system, we went for the most expensive. We went to USA. when he wanted to copy laws, he went to Britain. All right. Britain's governance is not as expensive as what they run in the United States of America, USA. All right. So, and you know that we have Section 308, for example, of Nigeria's Constitution, Section 9, that confers immunity on governors, the deputies, president, and their vice, and his vice rather. All right. All those things come together to give an invincible feeling on these political actors. Imagine if a civilian does. Okay, think about someone that is not paying tax, for example. They lock up shops. All right. Well, I've said it before many times, even on this station, that until many things change in Nigeria, we are in for a serious mess in this country. A very deep mess in this country, because our constitution is structured in a way that Yorubas will say that right. You know, a bird will not fly with one wing. Once one wing is broken, it can't fly at all. But Nigeria is trying to fly one wing. Imagine how youths are, you know, living the country, this jackpot syndrome thing, option B or plan B, whatever it's called. That happens because a balanced system would place responsibility on the government on one hand and the people on the other hand. That's what makes it balanced. But in Nigeria, I've said it many, many times, we have virtually everything placed on the shoulders of the people alone, and the law supports that. Benga, if Dr. Bedouin, for example, refuses to do nothing for 4 years, the law says you can't question him. I mean, that's shocking. That's shocking. So until we begin to get on the table again and get things right, for example, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of Nigeria, Chapter 2, talks about directive principles of state policy. You know, those are things that the government ought to do. Lofty things are there, education, health, blah, 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 like that. It now says, why provide for all those obligations and get to a point and say that if they fail to do those things, you can't take steps about it. However, Chapter 3 talks about citizenship, yeah? And Chapter 2, part of Chapter 2 talks about taxation, pay your taxes and the likes. It now says, for citizens, for Benga Lola, if you fail to pay tax, you can be sent to prison. But if government fails to do his own part, you can't do anything about it. Who does that? How is that an agreement to start with? So it's so done or tried in a way that they are so overprotected and all that. So it's just wrong on all things. A lot of things have to be put together, you know, rejigged again, if you can have a working system. Okay.
All right, we're still in conversation with Barrister KAYODE ADEREMI, but looking at giving the 1-year memorial of